stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing out the gate, as always, public comment, either in person or online. Do we have any public comment? Nobody in the waiting room?
Nope.
All right. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. We are at our public hearings. First on the docket, we have 255 Sunny Hill Road.
This one was continued, right?
Yeah, this was continued. This is a long time
Perfect, just making sure.
process.
So Brian Marchetti here, McCarty Engineering. So this hearing, or the project, was filed last fall. I believe it was September we started the process. It was continued because we have the property on Sunny Hill. We subdivided into 4 lots up on Sunny Hill, but there was an additional property down here to the east that was fronting on Leominster Road. So here's Leominster Road, Sunny Hill starts right here. This is the only property in this subdivision of land that had a conservation impact. So we're in buffer zone. So it took us we started the filing at the same time with conservation. It was continued for redesign multiple times. We met with conservation. Back in March, they requested that we have a third party reviewed by another conservation or wetland scientist. So we hired Goddard Consulting. They came, did their assessment. They checked flags, they moved some flags, so it took from the meeting in March, took about April and May to get them under contract. They started their inspections in June. We went back and forth with them in the Conservation Commission for about a month before we came to an agreement on the final designation of the wetland line. And then that was approved last week at the conservation hearing. So they've approved this lot now. So planning board was just waiting to make sure Concom was okay with this lot before they signed off on the stormwater permit. So we're here just for stormwater permits now for the 4 lots. There's 5 total lots, but one is not, we're not proposing any building on it here. There's these 3, and then the one on Leominster Road. So once we got our approval with conservation last Wednesday night, Thursday we finalized the plan here as part of the stormwater permit. We submitted that to Graves Engineering, who's the planning board's third-party review consultant. He reviewed it, and he came back and responded quite timely for us. I thanked him for that. He submitted this to the board today, saying that he had no issues with it. Just to summarize what happened, the changes between the plan you've seen before and this plan, the only difference is the driveway was 12 feet further to the south. So we just shifted the driveway slightly in the northerly direction, about 12 feet. House in the same location, driveway, all the stormwater impacts or the design is the same. The driveway discharges to the shoulder of the driveway. It's a pea-stone diaphragm, so it's a stone, basically a stone envelope, which conveys the runoff down to a rain garden. So planning board has seen this now in most of the stormwater permits that we've requested and other engineers are requesting in town. It's sheet flow from the driveway goes to pea-stone diaphragms and it's discharged to rain gardens where water treatment and infiltration takes place. As part of the negotiations with conservation, we did add some stormwater controls on to convey runoff that's coming onto our site from the abutting properties. So we added a culvert here under the driveway. We added another culvert over here under the driveway. And then we're picking up a roof drain or a foundation drain rather, that just discharge off of the property. We're just picking it up and piping it under our driveway, so there's no more impounded water as part of the development. So I just want to stress, the design is the same thing you've seen before. It was the same thing that was reviewed before by Graves. Everything is literally exactly the same, except we shifted the driveway 12 feet. So the same sized BMPs, all the stormwater is being treated to the same level. We filed an operation and maintenance plan last fall. That was part of the package. It's still the same plan. And we did get a sign off today from Graves Engineering saying that they've blessed the plan and agree with it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do we have a copy of Graves's?
The latest one, it should be in the drive, and it's under GEI reviews for the 255
When did that go up?
subfolder. Earlier this afternoon.
Oh, okay. I got all my stuff yesterday.
Hold on.
Thank you.
It'll take a second.
Oh, sure. Oh, I missed some.
And I do have a copy of the letter here if
Oh, sure.
you want to see it.
Actually,
Good.
could I? That's right, I'm not taking Amanda's stuff from her.
So all the initial comments say, no further comments, and then the last comment, just, he acknowledges the changes between the last plan and this plan.
Sure. Okay. Here, do you want this back? Um, okay, I'm going to turn to the rest of the board. Does anybody have any thoughts or things they'd like to share?
Everything sounds logical to me. I'm just not comfortable without hearing from Mr. Harris, where I'm new to
Sure.
this.
There's that, and, oh, this is a public hearing, so we should also open it up to see if there's anybody else who wants to say anything. But I'm not sure at what point we should do that. Yeah, it would be nice to have Mr. Harris on here. Okay. Okay.
I expect that he'll be able to join at some point tonight.
Sure.
So, I mean, we could theoretically just, like, sort of punt that to the closer to the end and wait for him to join, but
Sure. I
yeah.
would also have preferred the Matts to both be here. They've both been well involved in this up to this point. Okay, well, since we've got, it's a public hearing, does anybody else have anything they would like to share about the 255 Sunny Hill?
My name's Ken Patton. I live at 290 Leominster Road. I'm the butter. I live right next to the lot. I don't have any objections to the project. I just have a question from the conservation meeting. You had said that there was going to be a maintenance easement for those underground pipes. Would that still be the case?
Yes.
So that's an important thing to me, is there's two underground pipes that come from my house drain, my foundation drains.
Oh, sure.
And then I've got a catch basin that picks up a lot of surface water during rainstorms on the south side of my property, carries it across to the north side, and then they've picked it up from there. So these two pipes, they're gonna go under the driveway.
Yep.
And in my lifetime, I don't anticipate having any problems, but it would be good if, at some point we sell our property, that I can offer the buyer this maintenance easement. I think it's pretty important, and they offered it.
Certainly.
So I don't know if that's something that could be put in the order of conditions. And the reason I ask is so it doesn't get forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd accept anything in your conditions of approval that states, a maintenance agreement would be issued for the stormwater
Sure.
pipes, discharging from
Okay.
Ken's property onto ours. And the deed for this property, when they sell the lot,
Yeah.
will also mention a maintenance easement.
My understanding is we have these kind of agreements in place for stormwater management systems, so I don't see anything, that we can't do in there, at least as far as I'm aware of how the system works. Okay. That's
That's
great.
all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just so you know, Richard did just join.
Yes, I did see him in, well, what do we do here? What in particular, questions-wise, did we want to put forward to Richard? Rich, if we had, I don't know if you can hear us, we're working on 255 Sunny Hill Road.
Yes,
On our sign-offs for stormwater approval.
right.
We just, oh, sorry.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. We just wanted to check in as we're going along here. Is there anything that we need to be aware of as we're going through this process of reviewing and potentially signing off the stormwater?
I don't think there's anything special. I think you need reference the conditions need reference the Conservation Commission order of conditions, I think, and the plans that have been revised. I don't think there's anything really unique that I've heard in any of the public hearings yet.
Could you
Nope,
understand?
I couldn't hear
Okay. Richard, would you be able to get a little closer to the microphone? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm on my phone.
Oh.
I didn't see anything special that needs to be given attention to. You got the Conservation Commission is going to issue order of conditions. You've got the plans that have been revised and the Graves reviews, and Graves indicates they're satisfied with everything. So from my perspective, everything's in order.
Okay.
And it's a simple majority vote.
Sure.
So you
Um,
got-
What you could do tonight is vote to approve, subject to reviewing the written decision at the next meeting. And I can draft it up and have it ready for you for the August 12th meeting.
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the last part of that.
You can make a motion to approve the stormwater permit, subject to reviewing and sign off on the written decision at the next meeting. And I can have it ready for the August 12th meeting.
Okay. I'm getting most of it. I just want to confirm, you're saying that at this point, there's nothing stopping us from putting forward a motion to approve the stormwater, stormwater system, but something would then happen at the next meeting, and I couldn't quite catch what that something.
He's gonna write up, the
Conditions.
decision.
Okay,
And the conditions, and then we review it at the August 12th meeting.
and that's where we
Correct.
officially sign
Yes.
off on everything. Great. Okay.
Is that correct, Richard?
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful. All right, if that's the case, and if everybody is good with it, I'll accept a motion. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes.
Are you still accepting public comment?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for checking me on that.
Sorry?
Thank you for checking me on that.
Okay. Dave Rogers, 82 Highland Street. The first thing is, I tried to get in by Zoom, but it didn't come through. These are the wrong numbers. So thank God I just moved down the street and I grabbed my wife's keys and here I am. For my own edification, is this the lot off of Leominster Road on the right-hand side, right next to the Pattons?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I saw markings to the entrance to that area, and to me, and I don't know a lot, but it seemed like it was pretty darn close to water
Okay.
on the right-hand side. Am I correct?
I do not know. All the information I have is that our engineers have, the engineers we contract have signed off
Okay.
on what's there.
All right. That's important to me because, as I said, I don't know a lot. I'm not an engineer, but I know water, okay? And I don't know how you can put a driveway in there without disturbing the land and the water and the access on the right-hand side. To me, I looked at this and I said, what the heck is going on here? So I just don't understand. So if the engineers would be so kind to enlighten me as to this, how can we do this?
There are reports. Is everything that we get sent public record and anybody in the public can go through and look at it?
Yes, yeah, pretty much all documentation that comes through the planning office is public record. So there's several reviews from Graves Engineering, the engineers that we contract with, dating back from November 13th of 2023. I believe they've done 3 reviews, and in each one you can see their comments and what subsequently gets addressed. So if you'd like, I can get those to you.
Well, I appreciate that, but I've followed this because I'm interested and I support certain things. I don't support this because it doesn't make any sense to me, okay? And I can't tell you how many meetings about this subject I've been to, at least 4,
Sure.
okay? And it seems that I just don't understand how you can put a driveway in there
Sure.
that without disturbing the water and the stuff to the right-hand side. So I'd be interested to hear from the esteemed colleague over here, the fellow from McCarty, thank you. I almost said McKenna. Yeah, well, you're all the same. How this is possible.
I mean, to give you the very blunt answer, it's possible because people are paying for it. Because there's enough money involved, people will keep working at it until they get what they want out of it.
Okay.
At a certain point, our hands are tied. All of the boxes have been checked. We could sit here and say, no, we're not going to approve this, but we will lose that battle.
Okay. Could I poll the committee and ask you the following question? Have you seen this site? Have you walked the site? Do you know where the water is? Do you know the access to this property?
I know this site. I haven't walked it, but I've driven by.
Okay?
I do not, but I would defer to the Conservation Commission. I would think they'd be much
Yeah.
more
Okay, sir?
restrictive.
No, I have not.
Okay. So, it just, to me, and I don't want to be a wise guy, I really don't, but it seems to me that they'll do anything they can to make this a lot, and you can't make silk out of a sow's ear. I mean, I just don't understand this. And at one of the meetings, public comment, I said that, and I'm still saying the same thing, this would be a travesty, in my opinion, to put a driveway to the right of Mr. Patton's house, which, by the way, is as pristine a property as possible in the town of Lunenburg. And without, you know, encroaching on this area. I just don't understand it. So I'm ready to listen to.
We've gone through the whole permitting process for conservation, for planning board. It meets the regulations of the state. It's been reviewed time and time and time again. Conservation review took months, and conservation had us hire a third-party review consultant. It meets all the requirements of the Wetland Protection Act, your stormwater bylaws in this town, the riverfront area regulations, and it's been, you know, the saying, beating a dead horse. It's been reviewed, time and time and time again, and it meets the regulations.
Okay.
So they have to basically approve it.
Okay. If it meets all the regulations, how come it took so long to get all where we are
The
right
planning
now?
board waited for conservation to sign off first.
Okay.
Before they would vote to approve it.
Okay. But this goes back into almost a year.
There's a lot of reasons that I don't want to bring up.
Why?
There's been a lot of dysfunction with boards in the town of Lunenburg.
Okay.
That has cost us months and months and months. And it's cost my applicant, my client,
Yep.
tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
We're here.
Yep.
The project meets the regulations.
Yeah,
It meets the Wetland Protection Act, which is a state bylaw,
sure.
and it's a permittable project that was approved. And it's going to get approved through planning board as well.
Okay.
You started this off by saying you don't know this. The regulations are written, they're laws in the state.
Yeah.
So there's a lot smarter people than you and I who write these regulations,
Yeah.
and we've abided by them, we've designed it to it, they've
Yeah.
approved it.
Yeah.
And we're at the point now where we're ready to
Rock
build the
and roll.
project. Yes.
Okay. Can you show me on this piece of paper over here where the line for Mr. Patton ends and this area
This is
is?
Mr. Patton's lot line right here.
Okay, yep,
So the driveway is about 20 feet off of his lot line.
if that's his land, how come?
It's not his land.
Oh, it isn't, okay.
His lot line is this dash line right here. His property line is only a foot off his driveway, maybe 2 feet off his driveway.
Okay,
And our driveway is about 20 feet further to the north.
okay. Well, you know, I've said my piece, I guess. I'm disheartened. I'm constructive criticism to this board. God bless you for all the time that you put in this thing. But you haven't seen this site, so it's,
But this site is under the jurisdiction of conservation.
well,
And conservation.
so why are they here? Why are you here?
Because they have to approve a stormwater plan. So that we have to show them that when we propose a house and a driveway, that we have to treat the stormwater from the impervious area on the property.
Yep.
No matter where it is.
Yep.
So therefore, we have to design this to meet the planning board regulations. for
We as a
stormwater.
board decided not to officially look at the stormwater plan for approval until we got sign off from conservation.
Yeah.
That's the reason it's been off at conservation this whole time.
Yeah. Have you got documentation and a letter from Conservation explaining how they came about the decision that they came to?
No, that was actually the remaining question I have. I don't know if it's just something that we'd have to check the minutes for conservation, or do they have an actual?
Or does
document they
conservation inform Graves?
That is a good question. I believe it's something that the answer would be in the minutes, but I feel like there's another more direct source.
Or
My gut
assumedly,
feeling.
conservation would tell us
Yeah.
to some effect or another. But to that everything that Graves has gone through does have to have already gone through conservation, because their analysis is based upon conservation's decision.
Okay,
So Graves Engineering works for the planning board.
Yes.
Graves Engineering does not review conservation submittals.
Okay.
Conservation Commission, when we provide them documentation and plans, it's reviewed by the members of the Conservation Commission, and they had us hire Goddard Consulting, a
Okay.
third-party reviewer, to review the conservation filings.
Okay.
So we've gone through both of the boards.
Yeah.
third-party peer reviewers.
I had that mixed up, thank you.
It's curious to me, my uneducated position here, that you folks haven't received or reviewed that which the Conservation Department or group committee
It was approved last Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
There was email communication that went out verifying to Richard Harris and the planning board
Yep.
that we received our conservation approvals, so we wanted to proceed now with planning board.
Yeah.
At this point, unless somebody has something, I don't see that there's anything left for us to do other than approve the stormwater plan as it exists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is what it is, I guess, but I'd be less than candid with you if I didn't express, as I have, that I can't understand how you could do this with the water so close, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But as I said, I'm not a engineer, but I will tell you, in defense of my appearance here, there hasn't been anybody that has been more supportive of development in Lunenburg than Dave Rogers. But good development. I mean, this does not add up. To me, it's a make the thing work so that we can get some money out of this thing, because this is the way it's got to go.
I don't disagree with you that a lot of the construction that is happening in Lunenburg is of people just coming here to capitalize on, make money off of people
Right.
wanting to be in this town. And again, unfortunately, the way that money works and the way that our society and system works, it makes the decisions.
Yeah. And the gentleman's comment about the length of time that it took, I understand that, and it's very frustrating to me, okay? I'm a retired banker. Say more? I mean, that's how I made my living, by developing, properties, et cetera, and paying, doing loans, et cetera. But anyway, I won't belabor this point, but at least I've said my piece, and I hope that it goes on the record, because I just don't understand. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for your time. Sure. All right.
Do I need to close a public hearing before we do the actual? Yeah, okay. So I'll accept a motion to, unless you had something else. Accept a motion to close the public hearing and move on to approval.
I'll move to close the public hearing for the stormwater permit for 255 Sunny Hill Road.
A second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Okay, and now we just move seamlessly into a motion for approval,
Or we discuss as a board.
or we discuss as a board. That's where we get to. Okay. Sorry, I always mix those up. Just all discuss it
It's
at
a
once.
lot, yeah, it's a lot of things.
Robert's Rules of Order, man. It's too much. Okay, does anybody have anything additional they would like to discuss or say about 255 Sunny Hill?
The only thing I'll mention is that we were just waiting on conservation to approve in order to approve this. They've been through it, they've made their decisions, GEI signed off on it. So everything should be in order, everything makes sense to me. I know you weren't here at the beginning of all this forever ago, but we were just waiting on conservation to approve. The abutter was here, he said it's satisfactory to him the way that the driveway situation and the water there has been proposed to be mitigated. So to me, it makes sense.
So in a previous issue, there was a question about my ability to vote on it due to my lack of involvement. Does that apply here?
I don't think so. I think it's, oh yeah, actually that'd be a question for Richard, but I think a lot of it is just your own, you've been given all the information here, and I think it's your own choice as to whether or not to recuse yourself or not.
Well, hold it. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah,
So I gather Mr. Allison's not there tonight.
correct.
Glenn wasn't even on the board when the hearing was opened.
Correct.
So I think there is a real question about the legality of him participating in the voting. Because he wasn't even a member of the board when the hearings began. And the decisions on the entire, is based on the entire breadth of the hearing material. So I have some question about that.
Is your belief that we should be tabling this until we have the mats back and can have a complete vote?
Or at least one of the mats.
Well, yeah, sure. Enough for a simple majority.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, you've closed the hearing, but I think you've given very clear indication of what your decision is going to be, but I think I would want to have a quorum of qualified voters to then vote on it. And that also gives some time for us to talk to town council to verify whether or not Glenn is qualified to participate. Because my belief is he is not.
Okay.
So, Richard, without a majority here, having closed the hearing already, can it be reopened
Yeah.
at the next meeting?
Yeah, actually, I
majority.
would redo the Glenn should have abstained on the motion to close the hearing because he wasn't at the original hearing, in my opinion. So I would basically rescind that motion and continue the hearing to the next meeting for the purpose of discussing the decision
Okay.
and making a decision on it.
Okay. We will do that then.
Okay, I will rescind my motion for closing the public hearing for 255 Sunny Hill Road.
And then continue the hearing to August 12th at
The person who
6:05.
made the motion has to rescind it.
Okay.
I did, yep.
So it was, okay.
I'll rescind my second.
All right.
Okay. Wonderful.
And continue the hearing to August 12th at 6:05 for the purpose of discussing, making a decision on the application.
Yes.
We do have
We-
to
we
vote on
just
that
did,
as well?
Yeah,
Okay. All in favor of rescinding motion?
aye.
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 All right, so we are back to an open meeting. And Richard, you were just indicating we should be
Continue,
continuing, that's what I was looking for, continuing the meeting August 12th at 6:05.
continue the hearing to August 12th at 6:05 for the sole purpose of acting on the application,
Okay.
approving decision. So you're not looking for more input, you're not looking for more debate, you're not looking for more information. You're looking to have written decision and to be able to make a decision at that time.
Okay. All right, if that's the case, then I will accept a motion to continue the hearing to August 12th at 6:05 for
255 Sunny.
for 255 Sunny Hill Road. Thank you.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So is there anything else, like the conservation order of conditions or verification from them? I don't want to come back with more questions about open-ended things. right?
Sure.
Where-
Nothing that I see here, or nothing I have. Matt Allison's a bit more tied in. I can't guarantee that he won't have some kind of questions for you. But everything that I'm seeing here looks in line, and it's just a matter of board members that we can't approve it right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Done with that. We will move on to our next public hearing. Site approval plan and stormwater permit for 240 Summer Street.
This one is new, correct? Or was
Yes.
this it's new? Okay.
Yeah, no, this is new.
Yes, this is a new hearing, so you need to open it with a reading of the public hearing notice.
I'm sorry, Richard, what did you say?
This is a new hearing.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. The Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, July 22nd, 2024 at 6:05 PM, Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Lunenburg, Mass, to hear and review applications for site plan approval pursuant to 250-8.4B1 and 250-8.4B4 of the Code of Lunenburg, it should be Code of the Town of Lunenburg, as amended in the May 2024 annual town meeting, and stormwater management pursuant to 204 of the Code of Lunenburg by S&L Property Management LLC for redeveloping of the subject property for use as a contractor's yard with a steel storage building. The subject property information, the location is 236, 240, and 244 Summer Street. Assessor map parcel numbers 117-0028, 117-0029, and 117-030. Owner is S&L Property Management LLC at 234 Summer Street in Lunenburg, Mass. 01460. Materials are viewable at the planning office at 960 Mass Avenue in Lunenburg.
All right, thank you. And why don't you take away? What have we got?
Good evening. For the record, Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering. This project is on property of S&L Property Management, which is Stan and Lydia Miller, Miller's Paving. They have an existing facility a little bit further down the road, and they have started using this site as well for some of their truck storage in the meantime while they're working. There are two existing buildings on the property. Both of those would be raised, and a new 6,000 square foot steel-framed shop building basically would be built on the property with an office within the building area.
Could
here.
you
So,
turn that just a little bit
Sure.
for me? Thank you very much.
and I believe we sent in an electronic version of it, okay, which is up on the screen as well. So, in general, we submitted the application with a lengthy narrative. We do need site plan review for the construction of a non-residential building and for construction of a parking lot, and stormwater permit, management permits required by section 204 of the bylaw. There are no jurisdictional wetlands in or around the property. Summer Street is a local road, so there are no Mass DOT permits that are required. But what we've done is we've tried to adhere to the underlying zoning on the project, which is office industrial. Right now, the project is situated on several parcels of land consisting of approximately 1.09 acres on the southern side of Summer Street. The properties are known for this review, are going to be merged together. There's already a plan that's been recorded with the Registry of Deeds to merge them into one lot. They were a series of individual lots that have now been merged into one, which allows us to basically be able to build and finance the project. The two structures on the property have currently fallen into the state of disrepair, so at this point, they're going to be raised, and he'll be building a new building to be able to put his trucking operations and repair bays within. So it's essentially a contractor's yard is what the use of the property is going to be. So in the entrance to the property, there's an existing curb cut or a series of curb cuts along where they rebuilt Summer Street. So we're going to utilize one of the existing curb cuts so we don't damage the sidewalk area and the curbing that's along that road. From there, we have a 28-foot wide driveway coming onto the property. We have sufficient room to turn the vehicles around in the property. The vehicles would be basically larger dump trucks, some trailer dumps at times, which can come onto the property, and there's sufficient room to turn those around as well. And basically, the building is being utilized for the repair and maintenance of the individual trucks that they use and their equipment that they use in the paving and construction operations. The parking for the property is required at 6 spaces. We're showing 7 on the property. There are different parking spaces down in this area here, and handicap accessible parking in here for the office space. We are required to have 1 accessible space, which we do have on the property. The truck storage area will be located on the western side of the property. And what we've done in regards to the parking locations, there are setback requirements relative to landscaping when we're facing a residential property. There are residential properties on the other side of the street, so you'll notice a large green swath in front of the property between the building and the street. That's that purpose. On the east side, there's an existing solid wall fence which will be extended and continued along the front of the property. On the west side, we're proposing landscape screening along this area in here. This is actually the Miller's house. They built a house right there, so they live at that location. And then around the property, as you can see, there's plenty of landscaping and other features. The stormwater for the project is proposed to collect all the stormwater within catch basins on the property. Those catch basins would then be directed to a water quality unit, which would then discharge to an underground storage system consisting of a series of chambers located underneath the parking lot. From there, we get both infiltration into the ground as well as peak rate mitigation. And once it leaves that facility, it goes into another smaller level spread area, which allows the flows to be dissipated prior to them entering into an existing ditch at the back of the property. The Graves has done the review of the drainage, and they haven't found any major issues with that drainage, but we'll get into that. The sewer system is required to have a gas trap for the floor drains within the building. So there's a gas trap located just to the west of the building. That would then connect to the conventional sewer line, which would then go back out to the street for sewer purposes for both the office area, for restrooms within the building, as well as the floor drain. So it's all combined into one piping system entering the street. Water would be coming off on the property right now. It enters in, there's an existing line that comes off the main, which would be reused for the purposes of domestic water within the building. As the building is less than 7,500 square feet, there's not a need for sprinkler systems within the building, so we don't need a fire protection line for the project. Lighting will be coming direct wall pack units, which will be night sky compliant off the building, just basically security lighting around the building area. They don't use the property at night, so they don't need night lighting for that particular purpose. There is an overhead, this looks like part of the building, but it's actually an open storage area with a roof above it, so they can store materials that they may need to have for their processes within those areas. In the back of the property, there's also some storage of material bins, which would be used for sand, crushed stone, and other things that they would be utilizing in their preparation process for paving operations. So sewer, water, drain, electric is one of the things that was discussed by Graves in their letter. There is existing electrical services across the street. We would have to coordinate that with Unitil to bring the power, as well as whatever other communications provider is chosen to bring the communications into the building. There is gas available in front of the property. We haven't gone through those details about whether we would be heating with gas or with electric. I presume that the office might be electric, but the main bulk of the building would probably end up being gas, but that's something that will be discussed prior to construction. So what we've done is try to adhere to the zoning requirements as much as possible. And in all aspects, we feel that we've done that. At the end of the letter, there is a compliance review section, which goes through the various sections of Section 4.1 with respect to the requirements. We are asking for a couple of waivers under 4.1F2. There is a requirement for the scale of the plan to be drawn at 1 inch equals 40. It's a relatively small site. For the purposes of being able to see the plans and be able to read them, we've bumped that up to 1 inch equals 20, which is a typical acceptable scale for construction purposes. And we did also want to make note that the project itself is on Mass State Plan Coordinate System as well as NAD 83 relative to elevation, so it's all tied into the same mass grid system that was utilized for construction of the roadway. So that's a waiver that we'd be requesting under Part 2. We would be also asking for a waiver under Part 22, which is requesting a photometric plan of the lighting. And as I stated earlier, the lighting is going to be more or less security lighting around the building with night sky compliant wall pack units above doors and at man doors around the office area. And there wouldn't be any pole mounted lighting that would go beyond the property limits. So those are the two waivers that we're asking for at this point in time. This is as you said before, it's a new project, so we understand there's going to be some questions. We received the review from Graves Engineering, which had very limited comments, which was great. In their first comments, what they talked about under, you guys have this, I believe, right? Okay. Under the zoning bylaw, their comments number 1 and 2, those two comments are actually not applicable because those comments are related to the Summer Street Overlay District, and we're not applying for the project under the Summer Street Overlay District. During the day, this morning, I left Jeff Walsh at Graves a message, and then about 20 minutes later, I got an email from Richard, or maybe you sent out the email, I think. Yeah.
Richard was involved in that chain,
okay.
yeah.
So we got an email basically that the building inspector had come in and said that the review of the project under the Summer Street Overlay District is not applicable. So we're all on the same page. Jeff is going to follow up with that in a future letter. So some other comments that he had were dotting the I and crossing the T type things. As I said, we do have the datum that we are utilizing on the project, which is stated in the letter, but it's not specifically in the notes in the plan. So we're going to add that note to the plan so that it's clear. The plans weren't clear on where the electrical and gas connections were being made to the building, so we're going to add those to the plan. And then we needed to include provisions for waste disposal, outdoor lighting, signs, and photometric plan for the lighting. So the waste disposal, it would be typically would be a dumpster. That is actually going to end up being underneath the open area of the building. So this is basically just like a canopy over that open ground area. The outdoor lighting, we talked about that, and we did ask for a waiver for the overall photometric plan, as it's just really security lighting for the project. And there aren't any signs anticipated on the project at this point in time. However, if signs were added, they would be required to meet the requirements through the building inspector's office for their erection. And I would presume that they would just be on the building at this point in time. He does have 3 comments relative to stormwater. We had a conversation in the office today about those items. Those are all pretty easy to remedy. Some of it was plotting the line type when the watershed maps was supposed to be a dash line, and it showed up as a solid line, so it looked like we were splitting the watershed, but that was actually just a time concentration line. So we're going to clarify that and send him an updated plan of that. And he did have some questions about some of the one of the drip strips. We have a drip strip on the back of the building. The building basically is from the street, you're going to see it's going to be a single slope roof from the street, so you'll see the front end will be higher than the back end, okay? And it'll be sloped down, so everything drains off the back. So on the back part of the property, we put a wide drip strip in that area to catch that flow with a piping system in there that'll then pipe around to the main drainage system, okay? He is asking that we included the roof drain going into that, but I guess there's some land area that also drains into it that didn't quite make it into the calculation, so we're gonna add that to it and clean that up. And then he's asking that the operation and maintenance plan information be the operation and maintenance plan that's on the plan and within the drainage calculations they don't align. So just kind of clarify that and make sure that they say the same things. So those are the basic elements that we need to take care of. They found the overall hydrological computations in order, and then the DEP stormwater management standards were also in order, and that's, pending items above 6, 7, and 8 being addressed. There's a couple, like I said, typos relative to the elevations of some piping and labeling. But aside from that, I believe that everything is in order with the plan and the project. So where this is the first meeting, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I don't have any questions at the moment. Everything you put forth seems to be pretty well thought out, or at least reviewed. I don't see anything glaring that would stop us. Actually, I think I'd need to turn to Mr. Harris and get an idea of what of the, so you've got corrections or things that have been referenced that need to be corrected or adjusted on
Right.
the plan. What
We
of
could
those?
do, quite frankly, they're so limited, we could actually do that as a condition of approval.
Sure.
That we could just say that the conditions or the comments addressed in the letter be addressed prior to a building permit being issued. We've done that before.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, if that is to Mr. Harris, if that is a viable option of moving forward with a contingent approval.
Yep.
Okay.
It is a viable option, but I would suggest that the board needs to discuss the waivers they have requested and make a determination if in fact they're fine with those waivers. Because if they're not, then, for instance, if the board says, yeah, you're not having pole lights, but we do still want to see a photometric plan for the lighting you are going to have on the building, then they would need to submit that. So the board needs to make some determination about the waivers that they're requesting at the very beginning.
Okay. And the waivers discussed were the
scale of the
lighting
plan.
system?
The scale of the plan.
The scale of, oh, right, yes, the
Scale of
1
the
to 20
plan.
versus 1 to 40.
Right, and then whether a photometric plan was being required because of the scale of the project, quite frankly. I mean,
Okay.
if we were right up against residential land right here, I could see that as being a
Sure.
concern, but all the lighting really is going to end up being on this part of the building anyways.
Right.
So I think what Mr. Harris is saying is that, and I'm not sure, Mr. Harris, where this comes in, the conversation, I think it'd be, you'd open it to board comments first, discuss it, open to public comments, and then, I'm not sure, where does the vote for the waivers come in? That must come in before the close of the hearing, though, correct? I would think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At some point tonight, the board needs to make a determination about the waivers, because if the board says, no, Bill, we do want to see the photometric plan.
Yep.
All right, then you got to give us one before board can close
Correct.
the hearing. Similar, they had to decide to find the scale, and with the datum information, I was going through your waiver requested. So you know where to go from here. But they probably should get public comment if the board members have no questions at this point. And then when they start the discussion tonight, they start with the waivers issue.
Okay. Okay. then as this is a public hearing, I guess the next thing we do is we ask if there is anybody in the public that has anything they wish to say, either here in person or online. Do we have any raised hands? Doesn't look like it.
Not that I can see, nope.
And yes, Mr. Rogers, would you like to say a piece?
Want to bring the mic to you?
Bring up my house.
Well, we tried. The Zoom didn't work.
That's right. Dave Rogers, 82 Highland Street. My comments have nothing to do with the proposed construction, but it has everything to do with the principles of this company. My wife and I and kids have lived in town for 50 years. And about 40 years ago, we had two tragedies, young people that a football injury and another accident, and the two young people were rendered quadriplegics. Long story short, I was honored to assist with bringing things together so that we could put additions on their house and do all sorts of things. And I received a phone call from Mr. Miller, and to this day I've not met the gentleman. I wouldn't know him if I tripped over him. He introduced himself. He said he heard about the tragedies and he wanted to do something. And he said, I will supply all the gravel, all the loam, all the hot tub, everything that you need for those two properties and any kind of retrofitting that you have to do. And he did, and so it speaks to the goodness of Lunenburg and the integrity of people and willingness to help. So I just wanted to mention that. As I said, I don't have anything to do with this, and I wouldn't know the guy if I tripped over him, but I thought it was important to bring this up because it does speak to the fabric of the town of Lunenburg. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Well, always a pleasure.
Yeah, you're getting very gray.
We go back way. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's good to get gray.
Yeah, nice to see you.
What hair I have left is gray. So, with that, I guess the first question about the waivers would be relative to the scale of the plan. I personally think that the scale of the plan makes sense for proper review. The question about the datum is not, we're not asking for a waiver for the datum. We're just stating that we met the datum requirement within that one section.
Sure.
Okay? And what Jeff has asked is that information be added to the plans, which we can do as one of the conditions of approval.
I just had a question for Richard, actually. Do you have an opinion on the scale of the plan, whether it should be waived? I know we've had issues as a board before with plan sizes, so I just want to make sure what your opinion is.
If they were going from 40 scale to 80 scale, I'd have a question, but going from 40 to 20, I have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
Because, very frankly, 40 to 20 makes it easier to read.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Scale wasn't something I had any concerns about. I am unsure about the photometric plan. I am wondering how much of that we should have in place before we start.
You want to do it as a condition prior to building permit, and that Jeff reviews it?
That does, I don't personally have any problem with that. How do the rest of the board feel?
I don't have an issue with that.
Yep, sounds logical. I would also like to hear from Mr. Harris what his opinion is.
Oh, yeah.
I frankly don't believe you should defer that to staff after you make a decision. Because if you approve it without a photometric plan, you're approving the plan without, you're approving the lighting. As general practice, a board can't defer a policy question to others after rendering decision on the application.
So that's, if the board agrees with that, there's no problem getting one together.
Yeah.
It's just timing of when we close and when we do that. So it sounds to me like that's really, if the board chooses to not accept that waiver, then what we would do is we would request a continuance to the next meeting.
Sure.
And in the meantime, what we'd be able to do is update the plans with these comments from Graves, get all the information cleared away, get him a photometric plan to review, and hopefully have a clean letter by the time we come back at the next meeting.
Could you just explain the lighting again?
The lighting is going to be off the building, so like it'll be attached to the building. And it's basically, it's going to be it's wall packs, basically, night compliant wall pack units that would be basically lighting the area around the building for security purposes. There are no pole mounted lights proposed.
The light packs will be shielded,
Yes.
so all
Yep.
facing down. There's not any projecting out towards a street or towards traffic or towards anything. It's just straight down to the
Correct.
ground.
Yep. And I would say that the ones over the garage bays will probably be visible, even though they're shielded, but there's a difference between shielding for night sky compliant and whether someone can actually see the light.
Yep.
So, for example, on the side of buildings that we've done, matter of fact, the 435 building that we did, 475 Lum Shirley Road, we specifically said to the neighbors, you will still see the light, but it's not going to shine onto your property.
Sure.
And it's not going to shine up for night sky compliance. So,
Bill, could you, using the site plan you have, could you identify where those light fixtures will be?
there would be one in front of each bay. If I could borrow you. So there's a bay here. I'm not sure if you're getting this on the screen. You guys want to
Okay.
switch your,
Yeah, I mean, if we could camera direct, I'm just following your laser pointer with my cursor at this point.
Okay.
there'd be one there, one there,
Okay.
one there, one there, a smaller one here next to the door, and there
Mhm.
might be one on the back side and some underneath this area here.
Okay.
I don't even think we need it on the back side because there's no entry doors over there at all. So it's just
So-
basically along the front, right in here, there would be probably some lighting underneath this, but basically over every garage bay door, there would be a light.
Talking something like 6 to 8 lighting packs, 5 on the front,
2, 3, 4, 5,
and then whatever goes in
maybe
the,
6.
yeah.
So none of them on the side facing the street?
There shouldn't be any night lighting needed on that side.
Okay, okay. If they're all shielded, all facing down, none of them on the side of the street, I don't see a need for a photometric plan. Because what the photometric plan is going to show is basically you're going to get halfway across the parking area
Right about here.
and it's going to go down zero or near zero candlelight, and it probably shows zero on the street side of the project. Wouldn't that be a fair assessment, Bill?
Yeah, that would be correct.
And if that's the case, I wouldn't see a need for a photometric plan.
Okay, sorry, I lost you just at the end here. Were you saying that going forward with,
No photometric plan.
I'm sorry?
With no photometric plan.
Yes,
He agrees that we don't need it anymore.
okay.
Yep. Based upon where he has indicated the light's going to be, and it's going to be shielded facing down, I don't see a need for photometric plan, because a photometric plan is likely going to show zero or
Yeah,
near
property
zero
lines, yeah.
on the front side of the property, and halfway through the parking lot, it's going to be near zero.
Okay. Okay, So what I'm getting from this is, well, I turn to the board real quick and see how everybody feels about that.
So the waiver wouldn't allow them to then in turn put in floodlights, like something inconsistent with those?
Correct. Right. If the lighting changed on the property, we'd have to come back to the board for that. Correct.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Harris.
In drafting the decision on this, I would put right in there, the board is granting the waivers based upon a condition that the lighting is as described in the meeting, and therefore, and the details be not on the street side, et cetera, so that it's very clear that's a condition of approval. Anything different would then require come back to the board.
Okay.
You like that?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So to check from here, if I'm understanding everything, it sounds like we're fine going ahead with the site plan approval with the conditions or waivers regarding the scale and the lighting.
You would actually take a vote to actually grant the waivers
Yes.
before
Okay.
we closed.
Okay, great. Then let's start there, because I think that's the only thing left to do at this point. So I guess what that means is I would accept a motion to approve.
Section numbers?
Oh, yes, please.
It was 2 and
Waivers
2
requested.
and 22, I think?
22.
Yeah, section F1, sorry, 41F2 and 41F22.
And those are of the rules and regulations for the preparation of site plans and special permits for the board, not the actual bylaw.
Okay.
It's not in the zoning bylaw, because I looked for that.
All right, I would accept a motion to grant waivers for the scale, section 4.1.F2, and a lighting. I've lost my
Photometric
words.
plan.
The lighting plan,
no.
section 4.1.F22.
Photometric plan, not lighting plan.
Photometric, thank you.
There's a difference.
Yes,
So moved.
there we go.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Great, waivers are approved. Thank you. And then with that, I guess the next is, I'll accept a motion to close the hearing, and then we'll deliberate, and then we will vote.
Check if there's any other public comment.
Oh, yeah, is there any remaining public comment? In person, online? Does not look it.
If I may,
Oh, this is about, yep. There was, one statement, we are at 217 Summer Street from, Elizabeth Freary. We were at 217 Summer Street. The Millers plan, have been great neighbors and their plans look great.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. That's good information to have. Yeah, we've gotten two character references that are both outstanding, so that's great news. Okay, I will accept a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing for 255 Sunny Hill Road.
Nope,
Summer.
nope,
Summer.
nope.
No?
Summer Street.
Summer Street, sorry,
Yeah,
240 Summer
two-
Street. I apologize. I'll motion to close the public hearing for 240 Summer Street. They're listed together.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. To board deliberation, we've done a bunch of comments already, but does anybody have anything specific they'd like to address or thoughts they haven't yet shared? No, doesn't sound like it. That being the case, I believe the next thing I've got is looking for a motion to approve site plan for.
Richard has something.
Yeah.
We got a hand, yes.
Couple things. One, we appreciate the character references, but we want to be clear that the board doesn't make decisions based upon character of the applicant.
No,
It's-
certainly not.
Just put that out there for the general universe note. Two, I think you should do it as two separate decisions. Site plan, probably first, and then stormwater second.
Okay. Sounds good. Then I will start by accepting a motion for approval of the site plan for 240 Summer Street.
So moved.
All right.
Yeah, and I would just add with the restrictions mentioned.
Oh, yes. With
Yeah.
the waivers. Oh,
Waivers already voted on.
yeah, the waivers. Yes, Mr. Harris.
With the waivers conditioned as discussed, and also a decision to be written and acted upon at the next meeting.
Okay,
So moved.
beautiful.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
I,
Great. That is the site plan. And now we move to the stormwater approval. Does anybody have anything they wish to share about that? No, seeing none. I will accept a motion to accept the stormwater plan as provided for 240 Summer Street.
So moved.
and again, would we have to mention the corrections and from the,
Not for these one, not for the,
Mr. Harris again.
oh, yes, Mr. Harris.
I would say you're not accepting, you're approving the stormwater,
Oh, did I say accept? My apologies.
and subject to the standard and special conditions, including the items mentioned in the Graves Engineering Letter of Review,
So
and
moved.
decision to be written and presented at the next meeting.
Okay, so moved.
second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
I,
Thank you very much for your continued support and
Hey,
help on
thank
these
you.
things.
Thank you for helping us through that, too.
Yes. We need a teleprompter where it can like write out exactly what the motion is.
Like a little decision tree, like here are our options, each thing.
Like
Oh,
a
that'd be
note card or
great.
something to flip through.
Oh, right, sorry, we're still doing this.
Ain't over.
In my, just on that note, in my previous employment, before I retired, I used to give a planning board in South Hadley a detailed background report on, prior to a meeting, and I used to identify in that report some possible conditions and motions they could make.
Okay.
So that was kind of like a cheat sheet card.
That's exactly what we need.
Okay, and we are not doing the appointment. The Economic Development Committee is not happening. So then the next thing we have is board discussions, and we're starting with the first right of refusal for 20 Kilburn Street. Which is unfortunate, because I was really hoping to have Mr. Allison to ask questions about this. Okay, so, first right of refusal. There wasn't a lot of information given. There was some written run-ups of everything, but we didn't get a, like,
Do you have all the files for it on,
the first right of refusal, I only have one document.
okay, there should be
There's 3 total.
a couple. And here is the first notice of, let me make sure I get the proper titling of it. So there was a notice of intent to convert and sell for residential use back from May. There's the site plan itself, and then recently from the 9th, there was the notice of non-exercise on Lot 2 from the Select Board. And my understanding is that they are, the Select Board is waiting to determine whether or not to waive the right of first refusal for lots 1 and 3 pending the planning board's input.
Is this separate from the July 9th meeting in which they did not exercise or assign?
Which one?
This was the only document I had, was
That's the only
this
one. This is from the July 9th.
Sure.
The other two should be under 20 Kilburn. Are you sourcing these like from your email inbox or
No,
just
I
from the
got
drive?
from OneDrive, but I did it yesterday.
Okay,
So anything
yeah.
that came in today, I didn't get.
Okay.
I'll start doing that just before meeting instead. Okay. The question I had, because I didn't have a lot of this, is do they already, like, are they actively trying to sell, or is this something where they're like, we want to sell, we want to make sure that you guys are okay with us selling?
Yeah, Mr. Gibbons.
Oh, is
you
this,
wanna
oh, yeah,
talk to
please.
Good evening. Attorney Tom Gibbons for Timrick Realty Trust, the owner. So this is a notice of intent to sell. So there is an agreement. On May 15th, I filed the required notice under Massachusetts General Law 61B, and attached to that is the purchase and sale agreement, the registry plan that identifies the lots 1 and 3. And so the ultimately, it's up to the select board to make the decision to exercise the right of first refusal or not. Conservation Commission last week voted to suggest that the select board not exercise their rights. That was at a public hearing. Tomorrow night, the select board meets. I'm on the agenda for that, and so I think they're just waiting for your input.
Gotcha, okay. The only other one of these that we've done was the one that's now the 255 Sunny Hill. So that's been unpleasant. What, Mr. Harris, what other, actually, I don't even know what the question I have for you is, never mind.
Basically, what you have here is they're looking to sell the property.
Sure.
Since it's under 61B, the town has the right to buy it at the price that they've contracted to sell it. The question for the planning board is, do you see a public purpose sufficient for the town to exercise its right to buy the property at the already established prices?
Okay. That was my understanding. I just wanted to make sure I had this right before I started charging off ahead. Okay. That was how I was looking at it. And I don't understand it from the point of the planning board. I'm not quite sure what it is that we as the planning board would retain land for.
Well,
Yes, please.
the planning board wouldn't retain the land, the town would.
Okay.
Under 61A, 61B, and 61, whenever a property is under those classifications and they are seeking to convert them, to sell them usually, certain boards have to be notified: conservation, planning board, select board, and I think assessors. And they get to notify where they get to vote whether the town should exercise its right to buy or refuse to buy.
Sure.
And that's what it amounts to. and that's why the planning board is involved. I would gather this goes back generations where local government is structured somewhat differently from the way it is today.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have anything from conservation on this? Remember the last time we did this, Logan wasn't here. You might have been.
I was here.
We waited a long time for conservation to get back to us, and the only reason I'm questioning it is looking at where the parcel is. It's right across from Cherry Hill Farm, and I think right next to it is it Massapog Pond? So I'm wondering what conservation's thoughts were on it, just because it seems to be close to a body of water that I think might go down in some rivers or streams somewhere.
GIS did also indicate some amount of wetland, like the property doesn't extend all the way to the pond.
Okay.
But there are indications of wetland within the property.
Within the property.
I have two
Yes.
questions. One, Logan, in the select board meeting, did they make any reference to Conservation Commission? And two, I think Mr. Gibbons had mentioned that Conservation had voted to recommend that the town not acquire the property. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, was that a question for me, Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Yes, so I went to the Conservation Commission by Zoom last meeting. Turns out that they had actually made the vote the meeting before, but yes, they had voted to recommend not to exercise the right of first refusal. So if you look at the plan that was submitted, this is a portion of a much larger piece. So what would remain in 61B is 81 plus or minus acres.
Okay.
This, we're dealing with Lot 1 and Lot 3. Lot 1 is about a 1.9, I think, 8 acre parcel, and the other one is 4. Sorry, the print's very small, but it's a 4-something acre parcel. But there remains a very large 81 acre parcel that would remain in 61B.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and am I reading this, both the Conservation Commission and the Select Board have both have both refused to
The
purchase
select
that?
board is waiting for you to vote.
They're
first.
waiting for us to vote?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
on the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Gotcha.
The selectmen did vote on one, didn't they?
They voted on, I think, Lot 2, and Lot 1 and 3 is what's currently being looked at.
Okay, that's what's mixing me up.
But Lot
Gotcha.
2 was a little different. Lot 2 was an intent to convert without a sale.
Yeah,
So that runs on a little bit different time frame. The town would have had 30 days to have an appraisal conducted.
Sure.
And provided to the landowner. The town didn't, so that one is done.
okay.
And this is just like, is this an advisory vote from each board? And ultimately, the selectmen would decide they could on their own decide to put it on a warrant,
Correct.
and then the town.
Yeah.
So the selectmen are just looking to all these different boards
Yeah.
for their input. Fair enough.
That's not exactly the way the statute's written, but that's the pragmatic answer to the question, yes.
We like pragmatic here.
Yeah.
As I said, these statutes written decades ago where a lot of towns were structured with a lot of independent boards that would go directly to town meeting. And it really doesn't apply in 2024 Massachusetts.
Because ultimately, I mean, I'd like to hear from, like, open space and conservation kind of first.
Sure.
And the issue we ran into the last time was you only have a certain amount of time
Right.
before these are approved, and we kind of were running out of time, so, sorry, Richard.
And I would say that you've heard from Conservation, because Parent Conservation's already voted to recommend that the town not acquire the property.
And even if we, defer to conservation, it wouldn't prevent the open space from having a spirited case in convincing the selectmen to,
Sure.
in fact, go forward with it.
Correct.
All right.
Mr.
It
Gibbons.
seems weird to me that conservation is waiting on us because this seems like it's more there.
Mr.
So,
Harris.
select
They-
board's
Yes.
go first.
Conservation's not waiting on you. Conservation's already recommended.
Okay, and select board's waiting on us?
Select board is waiting for you, yes.
Okay. And
Because
conservation board already said, no, we're passing on it.
Right. Because
Okay.
from pragmatic perspective, if the town is going to acquire this property, who would go to town meeting? The select board.
Sure.
So therefore, it really comes down to the board's recommending to the select board whether or not the individual boards find a public purpose sufficient to spend the amount of money necessary to purchase the property. And Mr. Gibbons, what is the total amount for these two parcels?
For these two lots, it's $330,000.
And we could, I suppose we could, if we did vote no, you know, in line with conservation, and the open space did want it and presented a case, there's nothing would prevent us from later changing our vote to recommend it. Is that fair to say? I mean, legally, we would be on, you know, at the time being, be a no.
Sure.
But-
Yes, Mr. Harris.
Technically, open space doesn't have a role in this under state statute. But, yes, if the select board said, oh, we think open space made a good case, we can go to town meeting, then planning board could very well vote to support the acquisition at town meeting. But at this point in time, you're making a recommendation to select board who is likely going to vote tomorrow night on whether or not to exercise the town's rights.
And if I may, so under the statute, the select board is the final decision maker, but they look for the input, and the statute specifically states from who? You know, conservation, planning board, assessors technically. So I think it's the select board that would maybe looking to cast their net wider. It's a public hearing, so people are aware of it being on the agenda. If, you know, any member of the public wanted to come and express their opinion, they could. So with all due respect, I don't think it's the planning board that looks for comments from other boards or committees.
So we only did for conservation, just because the quality of the land, we like to make sure that they get their say in it, so we know more about that, whereas, you know, we kind of look at it from like a planning perspective. But I
Right.
understand that all boards have their own opinions, but we like the conservation to put their input in for us.
Right, and as a practical matter, I think Mr. Harris should agree, sometimes the land has conservation value, and sometimes it has value because maybe you want to put a school on it.
Historical or something, yeah.
Yeah, some other value,
Where I worked at before, in 22 years, we only exercised our right to purchase property once, and that was for a school that after we bought it, the school department said, oh, no, we don't want that after all. So we spent $350,000 buying a piece of property for a school that couldn't be used for school.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm personally not sure if there's an exact metric for this, but I don't see from a planning board perspective what value or use we would get out of this property. And if Conservation Commission has already said, whatever, we don't want this, I don't know what it is that we would do as planning board to say, like, this is why it has value and this is why we want it. So I am inclined to, what would we say? Use our right of refusal, or, yes,
Recommend the town not exercise its rights.
not exercise. Thank you.
I give you an example where a planning board would have interest in let's say the town had a long-term trail system plan, and it showed a trail going through a portion of this property. Then the plan board could recommend to the select board, hey, there's a proposed trail going through this property. We think we should acquire the property at this time, and the property make nice use for a park. But that's not what you have before you tonight. You don't have anything of that nature, and therefore you have to really question whether there is any, from a planning perspective, a use for the property.
So it's starting to make a little more sense. When I did participate in the open space committee meeting recently, they did discuss this a little bit, this property, but there was a lot of confusion surrounding it. And it, as I guess Mr. Harris had mentioned, they're not formally part of it, so that might be where that confusion came in terms of them being notified. So they were just kind of bouncing around a bit, but it sounded like they did have interest in it. Apparently they have like a 6-point parameters, where they're saying they had like 4 of them were met. So it just, the feel was there was some interest among them, but there was certainly no formal vote and stuff. In fact, they had asked if we had discussed it in any detail. So, that's about all I can convey, is that, informally there was some confusion there why they weren't notified, and and looking at it, there was some interest in it. So I think that's kind of where I would default to wanting to hear more from them, but I know we need to make a decision. And I mean, I know of no specific reason to support acquiring it from a, planning board standpoint with my limited.
Yeah.
Was there any indication as to what open space wanted with it? I'm just trying to determine if we should.
So there was confusion where they had information that there was no contiguous town property, but there was some connection. I think that's one of the 6 parameters. So again, they really weren't having an in-depth formalized discussion on it because, they didn't have a lot of information to work off, and just, I can't, I apologize, can't remember the one individual's name, but, he individually was interested, in knowing more, and, I can't say that he's fully supportive of acquiring it, but there was interest in that realm. But I guess that would fall onto their purview as a board to make that known.
Mr. Harris had a comment.
Yeah, if the board is so inclined to make a motion or vote to recommend select board that the planning board doesn't see from a planning perspective a reason to exercise the town's right of first refusal, the board could also at the same time make a comment to the select board that however they understand there may be some interest from the open space committee, and the open space committee would have the opportunity to go to select board tomorrow night's meeting and voice their comments themselves. That way you could make clear to the select board that you're not recommending acquisition, but the open space committee might have some interest in it.
Okay. I had a little bit of trouble. I just want to repeat what you said to make sure I got it right. What it sounds like is sending a recommendation to the select board saying, planning board doesn't necessarily find a value in exercising our right to purchase it, but it's worth talking to open space because they've had thoughts.
I wouldn't say it's worth, I would just say that, however, the planning board is aware that open space may have some interest in it.
Okay.
And I think that makes sense because they're an offshoot of this board, correct? I mean, that's what we would rely on them. Like ideally, we probably should have had them, come in and speak to that issue, but.
We always seem to be chasing things when it comes to this.
But as long as the information gets out, I mean, it doesn't.
Okay.
But so I agree with Mr.
Yeah,
Harris.
I'm pretty happy with that as a move. I don't see a use for it from a planning board perspective, but if open space has something, please go for it. All right, how do we phrase that? I'll accept a motion to, I've lost the words already.
Can I make a
Yeah,
suggestion?
please.
Recommend to the select board, the planning board finds that there's not sufficient reason from planning perspective to exercise the town's right to acquire this property. However, the planning board is aware that the open space committee may have some interest.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful.
Oops, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too. Okay. This ARPA funds, this is, as I understood it, this is them coming forth and saying, hey, we've got money, do you have projects for money? And there's nothing, we, as I understand, don't currently have any projects to which we're looking for money.
Sound
I just
system.
felt it should be on the agenda for y'all to be aware of this, instead of just saying no.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean, like a proper sound system for this room, maybe a speaker.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that would be, help already challenging communications.
Another Zoom link
Third one.
dedicated to the planning board?
Honestly.
For what it's worth, I've been tossing around the idea back on the town's end of a like major change to how that works. So instead of this rotating set of links to the public, there would be a dedicated link, one place that they go to, and the rotation, if that would need to happen, happens like on the back end.
Yeah.
So it's just like a simple and streamlined thing instead, but just wanted to throw that out there. That's kind of in
Love
motion.
that.
Yeah. Anything that means that we don't show up and not have a Zoom link.
Yeah.
Is a good plan for me. Yes, Mr. Harris.
I just throw out that the idea of audio system improvements, you could just send an email or memo to the select board saying, no, we don't have a particular project ourselves, but we do think there's a need to invest money in improvement of the audio system in the meeting rooms.
Yeah.
The additional Zoom link probably wouldn't be a viable option because Zoom is an annual license and the money has to be contracted by December 31 and spent by December 2026. And the problem you have with that is annual license, you're not going to be a contract for 2 years on it. So, but you could voice support for audio system improvements in the meeting rooms. Not that that's a planning board project, but that's a idea of a town project that needs to be done.
Okay. All right. So we've got things that we would like, things that make sense. This feels like something. Do we have an official way that we reach out to this, or is this just something where we collect our ideas and we email and be like, here's what we're thinking?
Given the time frame, I suggest that if the board has ideas tonight, that Logan send email to Annie,
Okay.
communicating your thoughts. I believe the deadline is the end of this month.
Yes.
So you could, if you collectively have thoughts tonight, you could do that. Or if you individually have ideas, you can send them to Logan and he could, within next week, next 7 days, send email to Annie with all those together.
Okay. Then,
Just remember, the limitation is it has to be contracted to be spent by the end of this December and must be spent within 2 years after that date.
sure. I don't see any reason for us not to, start up with our first two ideas, sound system and improvement to our Zoom. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't email those off. And then I assume at some point, if this is a viable option, the select board, is they in charge of the funds? Whoever's in
Yes.
charge of the funds will come back and be like, all right, let's do this officially. My understanding is there isn't anything we need to vote on or motion for this, though.
They're just asking if any departments, any boards have ideas of projects
Sure.
that they have to be funded by the end of this, in ARPA.
Okay.
And and there's a very tight time frame by the federal government for contracting and spending of the funds. As I understand, the 300-something thousand that's remaining are funds that they anticipated being spent but weren't spent.
All right. Okay. Does anybody else, I mean, I like the ideas we have. I don't have any, like really jumping out at me ideas. I say that's a good spot and we email those requests. If there's nothing else to do there, then I guess we move on to committee reports. Everybody fine?
Yep.
All right, cool. Master Plan Steering Committee is this week. Yeah, so that'll be happening on Wednesday. Open space.
Open space, yeah, so I covered a good portion of that already, but they also briefly discussed the open space plan update. Their discussions, planning underway. The new update is due in 2027.
Okay. All right. Municipal Design Committee and Agriculture, those are both Mr. Allison?
Agricultural Commission, he's not doing. He said we should talk about it at this meeting. Because
Okay.
we don't have a representative for that currently, but I don't know if we want to wait for the mats to get back.
Yeah, I don't think that's a decision for us to make. That's just the three of us. Capital Planning and Economic Development are both Brenner.
No, I have economic development now.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I was going to
great.
defer, but this is the second meeting in a row they have not been able to make it. So I might as well just blow through what I had for the last meeting. They were mentioning that Ruby Donut is hoping, or they're working on the Stellas on Electric Ave they have a place in Air now, I believe, Air?
Yeah, they do.
It's kind of a neat little place. Il Forno had purchased the property adjacent to their restaurant, so hopefully there'll be some activity or development there. A joint meeting, I think they want, with us, which has missed, they have to reschedule, to streamline new businesses coming to town, address some stumbling blocks, like Mike's Random Stuff, as well as, Ruby Donuts and the golf simulator business that's coming to town. They just kind of wanted to go over some of the issues where those could have been streamlined, bringing them into town. And they have a meet and greet, unless the date has changed. They have that meet and greet again at Low Places Ranch that they had last year. That was quite successful. So they're planning to do that again. Again, this information is about 2 weeks old or so, week and a half, but they'll have that again at Low Places Ranch on Goodrich Street on the 26th of September at 5:30.
Okay. Great. Stormwater Task Force, we didn't have a meeting, we didn't make quorum. Montechusets Regional Planning Commission.
We do not have a meeting this month. We'll meet next month.
All right. And the Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee.
We met. I took no notes. It was mostly housekeeping, voting on new leaders for the group, but nothing to really report as far as Lunenburg.
Okay. Great. So those are our committee reports. Has anybody had a chance to review the minutes? We've got 3 that we need to go through. 513, 610, and 624.
In the drive, there's the Word docs themselves, and those have like the actual changes highlighted specifically. I have versions printed out here that are just not highlighted like as it's going to be posted for the public. The changes that were made, because there were two that were brought up, two sets of minutes brought up at the last meeting, and Mr. Harris noted that this, one of them didn't have a couple of the actual like legalese for certain motions, so I added those, and then the other didn't note that one of the items was a continued from a previous hearing, so I added that. Yeah, you'll probably get the best gist of it from the OneDrive.
There's only one of those that I was party to or present for. So that would be the only one I would vote for.
Okay, and I'm sorry, that's the 24th, right?
I'm trying to find it.
I thought you were here for the 10th as well, were you not?
Maybe.
Oh, no, yeah, no.
Oh, June 12th, you were marked as present for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, in that case, the May 13th minutes, we will postpone to the next meeting, because we don't have enough people to approve that one. Moving on then to the June 12th. This was our reorganization meeting. We did some appointments. We had public hearing on 255, performance guarantee on Mulpus, and certificates of completion on 680 Reservoir and 321 Sunny Hill. And then a board discussion on the town manager screening committee.
So June 12th has both you and I absent.
Oh. We had meeting
Oh, yeah, that was my
problems. We
first
couldn't get
meeting.
on
I thought you
Zoom.
guys left me high and dry.
Yeah, we did.
I thought I offended you or something. Yeah, that's right. That makes
Okay,
sense.
well, we can't do that one either then.
Ah, yeah, good point.
So 6:24 is the only
Yes.
minutes we can approve. Man.
Okay, this is where we actually did all of our reorganization and nominations.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be so excited to get my first set of minutes approved, finally.
All right. Just let me know when everyone's had a chance to review those minutes, and we can,
I'm good.
okay. All set?
Yep.
All right, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes for June 24th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Fun down.
All right, meeting schedule, 6 PM, August 12th, August 26th, the next two. Public comment, nothing. Board comments or concerns? How's everybody feeling? Good meeting?
Yep.
Good job.
Wonderful. I made it. All right, and then I'll accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Right.
right.
I think that's the meeting. If it's not, that's too bad, because that's the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, thank you.
I think you're muted.
We got the gist.